Hello, everyone. 7 o'clock, we'll call this meeting to order. The board does not write the zoning ordinance, but does have the authority to grant relief from where practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship would result. The board will vote on each agenda item following a public hearing. Use variance requests require a minimum of 6 affirmative votes in order to grant the requested variances. Non-use variance requests require a minimum of 5 affirmative votes in order to grant the variances. Please note that any order of the board is valid for a period of 1 year. If you would like to request that the board table or adjourn your case due to the absence of full board, which tonight we are down 3 people. Let's see if I counted right. Yes. You must immediately inform the chairperson immediately after the public hearing. Petitioners shall do their best to limit presentations to 10 minutes. Each participant in a public hearing shall do their best to limit comments to 3 minutes. All right. So, as said, we're down 3 people. Let's see, you got who's here, right? Okay, so then we have the first thing is the approval of minutes for May 8th, 2025 meeting. Is there any amendment or motion to approve the meeting minutes? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Nancy had the hand raised
Oh,
before you.
that
That's okay. All those in favor? Yeah, yes.
For the motion, case A.
That's out of order, unfortunately.
No, in the minutes.
Oh, in the minutes, okay. That's,
Shows us unanimously adopting the motion to waive 4.6 feet, and then it shows us unanimously adopting the motion to waive 8 feet. So that's not how I remembered. I thought we only adopted to waive 8 feet. It's page 2.
you're talking at,
So right at the bottom of page 2, it says we adopted the 4.6, and then further down on page 4, it says we adopted the 8 foot.
Well, the one was for variance, there were 2 separate variances. The motion that was adopted.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Okay.
We're good?
Okay.
is there any other questions or discussion? No? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Minutes have been approved. There's no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. Case number 25-06-14. That would be for 31668 Woodward Avenue. Whenever you're ready, you may take it away.
Thank you. This subject site's located on the east side of Woodward Avenue, and it's comprised of 3 properties, 2 of which front directly onto Woodward Avenue, and there's a 3rd accessory parking lot located directly behind the 2, which is on the other side of a rear public alley. The site does contain existing 1-story commercial buildings, which the petitioner is proposing to demolish. And in its place, the petitioner is proposing to construct a new 3-story bank building operated by Citizens State Bank. As part of the proposal as well, the 2 sites along Woodward Avenue will be combined into a single larger parcel, while the accessory parking lot will be remaining as is. The city's planning commission did provide site plan approval at their May 13th, 2025 meeting, and their approval is contingent upon the petitioner obtaining the necessary parking variance. The zoning ordinance's requirements for the parking calculations for banks and other professional offices calls for 1 space for every 225 square feet of usable floor area. And staff had calculated that the building has a total of 12,549 square feet of usable floor area, and that's taking into account all 3 floors. So the proposal requires in total 56 off-street parking spaces, and the approved site plan provides a total of 47, so the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive 9 of the minimum required 56 off-street parking spaces. Similar with other cases on Woodward Avenue, there are 8 additional angled spaces shown at the front of the building, which are of course within the MDOT state right-of-way. So as I always point out, that potential visitors to the bank can of course use these spaces, but staff is unable to include these in the total number of off-street parking spaces provided. Thank you.
All right, questions? Anyone? Yes, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, are both of these parcels currently owned by them? I guess I'm a little confused because I thought we saw something on one of these parcels recently that was being like expanded for the restaurant to be made into a patio or something. Has that completely went away, or is the property different than I see it? Because I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, so the petitioner did provide a survey in their plan set which shows how the lots are going to be, I guess, restructured. So a portion of the lot to the closer to the south is going to be deeded back over to the Redcoat Tavern, and then they're going to take over, I guess, the 120 feet that's shown here on the survey. And in terms of ownership, I defer that to the petitioner directly.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I was I was looking at this as the whole parcel, like up into the wall of the restaurant, and I was like, I thought we already approved something there. So okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions? I just have the proverbial one I know the answer to, just make sure.
Sure.
Should, of course, the bank is right now it's considered an office building more than a bank. Should it change function, we'd have to whoever would come next would have to come back before us changing function. But if it went from an office building to another office building, they wouldn't have to come forward if we granted the variances, correct?
For parking for an office?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you. And any other further questions? Seeing none? All right, if the petitioner is here, you may come forward and present your case.
Good evening. My name is Jim Schneider, Schneider Smith Architects. This is Laura Ward. She's with Citizens State Bank. To answer your question, sir, they have closed on the property, so they own the property currently, and they've deeded 20 feet back to Redcoat Tavern. And I believe their idea is to eventually do something on it, but I'm not sure. I think they might have approved something earlier for them that they did not follow through with. So,
Oh, okay.
but
Okay.
they do own the property currently. So,
Got it. Okay, thank you.
and actually, this is a great success story. Citizens State Bank opened in Royal Oak 5 years ago. In that time, their assets have grown from 60 million to north of 300 million. They determined that they wanted to expand. They needed a larger headquarters building. They did a search throughout Metro Detroit and came to the conclusion that they really wanted to stay in Royal Oak and they wanted to stay on Woodward Avenue. So that involved another lengthy search to try and find something that was viable. They actually negotiated with 2 separate owners to put this parcel together and make it work. So specifically with regard to the parking, as Alex said, we're about 12,500 square feet of usable. The building is somewhat unique in that there are some spaces in there that you would almost consider not used very often. There's a very large boardroom. Their board meetings take place in the evening after business hours. There's a large training room on the 3rd floor, which would get limited use. They are beginning to develop some branch banks around the area, so they would have people come occasionally for training, but that is not a space that's used on a daily basis. There's the vault, which is a large space, and then there's 2 generous kitchens, one on the 1st and one on the 2nd floor. Those spaces calculate out to about another 1,600 square feet that if those were not considered in the normal usable category, that would drop our variance request down to about 2. In addition to that, the new master plan, that's interesting, has sort of targeted parking and said that a lot of the parking usages are not necessarily developed based on any scientific information, and that the market should potentially determine what parking is. We feel there's adequate parking here for the use, otherwise we the owners wouldn't have followed through with this building. Along with the reduction in parking, the master plan also discusses obviously a reduction of hard surface area, which reduces stormwater, et cetera, et cetera. So if we were to address the 4 items, A, the ordinance restriction unreasonably prevents owner from using the property. We believe the off-street parking is appropriately reflects the fluid nature of business today and prevalence of electronic banking, flexible office hours, and the amount of building area that doesn't necessarily increase the occupancy. And as I said, we're confident that we have adequate parking. Given that the site's existing, the use is allowed, we believe that with the parking, it's reasonable to believe the ordinance restriction is unreasonable in this case. B, the variance would do substantial justice to the applicant. Granting the variance would do substantial justice to the applicant by allowing an approved use to occupy the existing site. Other property owners in the district are served by having what I describe as a particularly blighted area of Woodward Avenue redeveloped. That entire back parking lot's going to get a brand new 6-foot masonry wall around it. There's a significant amount of landscaping going in on the site. C, plight of the landowner due to unique circumstances and the hardship being self-created. In Royal Oak, all this land was platted 80-plus years ago, so it is, we deal with what we have to work with, and we've given the maximum possible amount of parking on the site. Again, we don't feel the current ordinance necessarily reflects today's business environment with regard to flexible work hours, electronic banking, et cetera. So we think the circumstances are unique and it's not self-created hardship. So be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
All right. Questions for the petitioner? I have a couple.
Sure.
I think this is a great symbiotic possible relationship right there with Redcoat, because probably if you happen to have more people during lunchtime, they flood over there, and then in the evening when you're closed, opposite way. How many staff do you have, and also how many of the staff do you allow remote work to occur with your staff? That plan is
Sure.
going to be there.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
There are remote opportunities, and there are hybrid roles where people are in the office kind of on shared days. I would anticipate, at any given time, the maximum would probably be 35 to 40 people in the building at one time.
You probably wouldn't have many visitors at all. It's just the employees. Because it's not.
And the customers that come and go.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Before I open a public hearing, I just wanted to let you know there's only 6 of us. You need 5 to pass. So if you want us to adjourn this till next month's meeting, for when we hopefully will have more board members, not guaranteed, you'll have to let us know. Or if you want to risk it, you can tell us to go forward and we'll go with that too. So it'll be after the public hearing.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want to take a quick discussion amongst yourselves
Sure.
as to what you want to do. All right, we'll open up public hearing on this case. If is there anyone here to speak on this case for or against, please come forward at this time. Going once? Going twice? All right, public hearing on this case is closed. Would you like us to try this, or would you like us to hold off till next month on this one?
I guess I would ask Alex what our options are going forward if we move forward and don't have a successful vote at this point.
If the vote were to fail, any action taken by the board is valid for a period of 1 year. I'd also point out that the Planning Commission did have a contingency as part of their approval for you to obtain this variance. So if that was denied tonight, it would essentially nullify their initial approval as well.
You can take another moment real quick to discuss amongst yourselves if you want to. There's only 6 of us, and you need 5. So that means you only can have one person vote no. more than one, it would not pass.
But you have no guarantee that you would have more next
More likely than not, you would, but there's no guarantee.
see.
Correct. This is a rarity to have 6, let's just say that. Usually there's 1 or 2 during the summertime, but not 3 missing. You would like it to delay or go forward with it? You'd like us to go forward? Okay. So, okay, we'll bring it to this side of the board. Is there any motions and/or discussions? Mr. Moore, I saw.
Oh, no,
your
I
hand.
think you were first.
Okay,
I make a motion to go forward, or
to approve the variance, okay, Mr. Moore, go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
I agree that number A, the restrictions are unreasonable strict right now for the bank. Just when I imagine how much parking the bank is gonna, it's not like something that you're gonna have that many people. And I think that what you have here would probably be adequate. That the variance does do justice to improving that area, that it would improve the looks of it. That the plight of the animals due to the unique circumstances, again, that those restrictions seem to be a little bit strict for the usage that you're doing right now, and that, you know, the hardship hasn't been created by you at all.
Mr. Moore, anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to add, I think a lot of these properties on Woodward are a challenge for us, and we see many of them. In thinking about this one, I use a financial institution that's also on Woodward, and their parking lot is generally 90% empty, and they utilize just the spaces along Woodward. And so I don't think we're going to have a problem here, and it's unique that they have more parking than most of these places do. So I'm comfortable with their request.
Any other discussion? Go ahead. Mr. Bastian and then Mr. Reddy.
So I would be inclined to grant this variance request based on unique circumstances, being that there's intermittently used space for a boardroom and for a vault, not to mention that the petitioner has mentioned that there are hybrid work opportunities which would further reduce the number of vehicles that would be in the parking lot. And I certainly don't feel that this was self-created. I think that the petitioner is working within the framework that they're given, and they're trying to find the highest and best use for the property. So I would be inclined to grant a variance.
Okay. Mr. Reddy.
I would just add that another unique aspect of this lot is that it is very well served by public transit on Woodward here. So I think that.
Any other?
I'll just add that the fact that there are 8 MDOT spaces there, even though we can't count them, that nearly closes the gap. So that's how I feel about this.
All right. I too am, as you already have heard, am in favor of this. I feel this is a great opportunity to make something nice on Woodward. They are lucky to have as much parking as they have, as well as enough adjacent parking, which I've gone to Red Coat at lunchtime, and it's not, that parking lot is not thing compared to how it is at dinner time. So should there even be a need for extra parking during the business hours, I think there's plenty of overflow that the neighborhoods would not need to worry about it surrounding it. And vice versa, Red Coat will probably be very happy to have extra parking for overflow. So I don't have any problem with this. All right. If there's no other comments, we'll move to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations. Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we will move on to case number 25-06-15 for 1423 Greenleaf. Whenever you're ready, you may take it away.
Thank you. This site's located on the south side of Greenleaf Drive, and it's within the one-family residential large lot zoning district. And the site itself is already developed with an existing single-family dwelling, and it has an attached garage. And the total lot area is approximately 0.38 acres. The petitioner is proposing to construct a new 600 square foot, one-story addition onto the existing dwelling, which will be used as a senior accessory dwelling unit. And the zoning ordinance actually does permit senior accessory dwellings as a special land use and are required to meet some very specific performance standards, which are described in the zoning ordinance. And I did print that section out, and I did provide it to you all to briefly review. And this proposal was first presented to the city's planning commission, and they did provide site plan and special land use approval. And is similar to the last case, their approval is contingent upon the petitioner obtaining the listed variances. So, as you all probably know, the zoning ordinance does limit single-family dwellings to no more than 3,500 square feet of usable floor area. Prior action actually taken by this board did previously grant a variance to permit the dwelling to exceed that cap, and at the time the variance was for 377 square feet. Obviously, the proposed senior accessory dwelling is its own unit, but it's still included in the total usable floor area calculation. And based upon the size of the proposed senior accessory dwelling, the cumulative size is now going to be 4,466 square feet. And the zoning ordinance does require that any modifications or additions result in compliance with the applicable zoning ordinance provisions. But this addition is going to be increasing the non-conforming aspect of the house. So the petitioner is first seeking a variance to waive a non-conforming structure in a non-conforming manner, and then to seek a second variance to waive the additional 600 square feet from the maximum allowable 3,500 square feet of usable floor area for the single-family dwelling beyond what this board previously did approve. Staff did also note in your reports that there was also prior action taken by the board, which did allow the petitioner to construct a garage which was in excess of what the maximum size is allowed in the zoning ordinance. But when the petitioner did submit for permits to actually build the house, it actually had modified garage dimensions, which decreased the size of it to bring it into compliance. And this is kind of important to bring up because the proposed addition does contain its own single car garage, which is 247 square feet, which is separate from the one for the house. So the combined accessory ground floor area for both the existing garage as well as the proposed new one-car garage would still result in compliance with the applicable zoning ordinance provisions for accessory buildings. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Yes, Ms. Robinson.
Just I'm confused about the numbers, about how much square feet. What specifically does this, with these requests for this variance, where is the house going to be the total, and then the actual new garage or new accessory building? What are those numbers?
The prior variance approved by the board was specific to the house itself.
Okay.
The variance in front of you right now tonight is just specific to the proposed senior accessory dwelling.
Just for the, okay,
Correct.
so it has nothing to do with the house?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I have a, I don't know what's going on here. Okay, I have a couple of questions on Section A of the senior accessory housing. It talks about the determination of an elderly family member living there, and every couple of years that's revalidated. So what happens when an elderly family member is not living there anymore? I mean, are there modifications that are forced upon them at that point? I know it says the special land use permit will be revoked, but I mean, somebody from the city is not going to be constantly watching to make sure that they're not using this as an Airbnb, or the next owner is using it as an Airbnb. I mean, what kind of enforcement goes along with it?
It does state that every so many years or after a certain time period, they do have to constantly, provide proof to the city to show that an elderly relative is living there, and it does go into detail on some of the proof that they would have to provide to us. Section E actually, I think, does kind of address your concerns where it does state that they have to provide some type of recorded device with the county's Register of Deeds, which shows that it's not going to be used as a two-family dwelling thereafter, if it's, if an elderly person ceases to live there. So that could be in terms of like a deed restriction or restrictive covenant. I guess long-term plans, what the petitioner's looking to do with it, I'd have to defer that to them specifically.
So even if they don't have a permit and they just, not this owner, but maybe like the next owner, decides they're just going to rent it out, I mean, what happens then? Fines? I mean, is that?
Well, 'cause at that point, they would no longer be utilizing it as a senior accessory housing. They'd essentially be using it as a duplex at that point, or a two-family. At that point in time, I guess a future owner would have to apply for a use variance because that's not allowed in the zoning district.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Other questions? I have one. Is the area that's under the pergola, that wasn't counted as part of the 600, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, just wanted to verify, because I couldn't tell if that was covered or not, even though it says it's pergola. Pergola insinuates that it's not covered, but I know if it
Page
was.
8.
Page 8.
If you scroll to the other side. it
Oh,
shows
thank
the
you.
slabs.
That's cut off for me. Oh, thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, if the petitioner is present, you may come forward and present your case.
Good evening. My name is Keith Logsden. I'm an architect with Michael Willoughby and Associates, representing Mr. and Mrs. Blower in this case. As we've said, the owner wishes to create an additional dwelling to accommodate his aging mother under the senior accessory housing provision of the zoning ordinance. As you know, on May 13th, the Planning Commission unanimously approved our site plan for the special land use as required for the additional dwelling unit. Several commissioners even commented that this provision was created for this exact situation. And they even added further that the proposed plan did a good job of satisfying the need while meeting all the requirements of the special land use. And I'd like to outline those to sort of answer some of your questions. The dwelling unit will be attached to the existing principal building as is required. The floor area of the proposed senior accessory dwelling will be no more than 600 square feet as permitted. A dedicated off-street parking space in the form of an attached garage will be provided for the senior accessory dwelling as required. The building height of the accessory dwelling will not exceed 15 feet as permitted. The principal dwelling will be owner-occupied for the duration of the special land use permit. The owner has submitted a letter detailing the need for a space to accommodate his aging mother. Verifiable proof will be submitted that the elderly family member continues to occupy the additional dwelling unit as required. The owner will record a deed restriction with Oakland County stating that the property may not be used as a two-family dwelling unit once it is sold or is no longer owner-occupied as required. And the proposed garage for the accessory dwelling will be 247 square feet, bringing the total accessory floor area to 798 square feet, where 800 is allowed. So if the provisions of the zoning ordinance are applied strictly, practical difficulties to the owner will result as follows. The restrictions of the ordinance unreasonably prevent the owner from providing an accessible dwelling unit for his aging mother because the space within the existing home cannot be rearranged reasonably, conveniently, and safely to accommodate the need. The variance would do substantial justice to the owner and to the other property owners in the district, as we're requesting the minimum amount additional area necessary to accommodate the need. The proposed addition will blend seamlessly with the home by matching materials, scale, and proportions of the existing building. The property is unique in that any addition to the existing home for this special land use would require a variance, and the need for the owner's elderly mother was not anticipated as part of the original home. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have of me or of the owner.
I guess what will you do after the need for your aging mother? What will you do with that space when you no longer need it for your mom.
Should I speak into the microphone? Should I announce myself or just go ahead and answer it? Okay, so I'm the petitioner, George Blower. Been a Royal Oak resident since 2008. I'm also a business owner. I've got my team that works here in the city of Royal Oak. They come from other places. My daughter went to the Shrine. She's now at the University of Michigan. But my mother currently lives in Clawson, and so that's a very good question. Obviously, it's hard to anticipate the future, how long I'll have her, right? But for example, my wife's mother, she's a widow, but she's younger, but I could anticipate that she may need to move into that space after, let's say, my mom can no longer live there or she passes, etc. So that's a scenario that my wife and I have discussed.
Thank you.
Sure. Other questions for the petitioner? I have a couple. And looking at actually where it's attaching to, is there a reason why you didn't decide to just take the office, which has a bathroom and a walk-in closet and a shower, and actually looks larger than the bedroom that's in the attached, and turn that into a bedroom, and instead add on a garage or whatnot, because at least now she would be within the house, easy to access if something happened than having to need to go out or whatnot.
I can address that. So from my perspective, and I'll let Mr. Logsdon address it from a professional perspective, but the things that occur, number one, are that, there's a number of issues, right? The senior accessory dwelling unit is going to be designed for a senior, whereas that office space, it couldn't accommodate, like, for example, the shower, right? She could easily fall on the shower there. It doesn't have all of the amenities that were included, right? It's just a simple room with a bathroom. She's, because of her condition, right? She would be, it would be hard for her to reside there. It's right next to the kitchen, the garage, it's very loud. On top of that, as mentioned, even though my team is here, I typically work from home. So I'm the only person that's earning income in the household. So that could impact my business, etc. if I don't have a space to work at home. So that would be the things off the top of my head, I would say.
Well, I wasn't saying necessarily you can't build an office as part of this. I was just asking why it was there and not attached, so that you'd answer part of that.
Okay.
One other answer to your question is we designed it so that the dwelling unit is pretty much at grade. It's one step up so that access is a little easier.
Okay. Is she in a wheelchair or anything?
She's not,
Okay.
but she's very frail, and so, but it's definitely, she's very conscious of falling and things of that nature because she has osteoporosis.
I was going to say, are the door openings in the senior living area set up so that if she were in a wheelchair, she could get around in that? Because it looks really tight and possibly like the typical doors right now. So,
Yeah, it's designed to be accessible.
okay. Being an architect, it doesn't look to me, but if you're saying it is, I will trust you. Any other questions? Yes.
So my primary concern is the extension of the frontage kind of blocking the view for the neighbor to the east, or at least creating an excessive amount of wall there. Is there any effort to screen it, or what is the plan in that regard?
We haven't really talked about landscaping, but certainly that could be provided if that's a concern.
I'm curious, when you were putting the site plan, I'm curious, when you were putting the site plan together, was there any exploration of putting this accessory dwelling unit more towards the west end of the lot so that it would have been more concealed from the street? Because as I see now, it looks like this unit will be fairly visible from the street, adding more width to what's visible on the home. I'm just curious if there was any effort made to explore an option of building it more to the west.
It's really more about access, mainly from the driveway. We wanted to incorporate the attached garage with the unit without actually going all the way across the backyard, so it would have required, more driveway and that sort of thing. So this was sort of the optimal location to allow everybody to use the home and yet she can remain independent.
Other questions? All right, just a reminder, there's only 6 of us here on the board. You need 5 affirmative. If you feel that you're not going to get it this month or concerned about it, you're welcome to tell us at the end of the public hearing you want to hold off the hearing till next month.
I guess I have a question about that.
Yes.
Maybe similar to the last petitioner. We've got planning commission approval. If this is denied this evening, do we have to go back through that whole process again? And do we have to have a material change to the design in order to resubmit?
As I mentioned with the previous case, the Planning Commission did have a contingency that you obtain the necessary variances.
Yeah.
If the both variances are denied tonight, it would essentially nullify their initial approval. So at that point in time, you can either modify your plans to bring it into compliance somehow. I don't see a situation where that's possible, given that the house itself already has non-conforming aspects to it. So it's a little bit challenging on your end, a way forward.
Whereas if we decided to postpone and come back.
You could come back
month,
next month
we
where
could come
hopefully
back
we have a full board, yes.
With the same proposal.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want, take a moment, sit down, and I'll open up public hearing.
I'd like to, thank you.
All right, we'll open up public hearing on this case. If there's anyone who'd like to speak for or against it, feel free to come forward.
Hi, I'm Steve Rosanowski. I live next door. This house is already 4,000 square feet. He's got a variance when he built it. He put a photograph up of a brick house online for us to view, and then he built a stucco house. I object to any further variance on this building. There's 2 people living in the house right now, and it's 4,000 square feet. My mom's 95. We put some grab bars in the house. We put a ramp in the garage so she could get in and out with a wheelchair. I think I don't want to see this house get any bigger than it already is. Right now I got to look at a big white wall. There's no landscaping. They got the electrical box. That's what I see out my kitchen window. It's not how it used to look. I object. My neighbor directly across the street, Matilda Benda, has also signed this document. She objects as well.
If you want to, you can pass the document along.
Thanks.
I think 4,000 square feet is plenty big for 3 people. And if I built an addition for my aged mother, I wouldn't have to add a garage. I don't understand any of that. So that's what this is about.
Okay, thank you, sir. If there's anyone else to speak on this case, you may come forward.
Hello, my name is Joe Roman. I live in Royal Oak. I live at 703 North Altadena Avenue. I've lived here my whole life. I am a practicing architect. I've done a lot of work in Royal Oak. I've been before you many times years ago. Speaking regarding this project, it meets the lot coverage. It's within the setbacks. It's well laid out. Question accessibility inside the dwelling unit itself. But I think it's a great idea. I think the ordinance restricting utilities being brought out to a garage is something that needs to change. I know that the planning commission has discussed it. I think that the zoning ordinance that's going to come out in the future here will address it more appropriately. Work from home is the new age. A lot of us work from home. I work from home. It's something that we need to account for in the ordinance. And I think this plan is a good example of that, where it's justified. So I'm in favor of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak for or against this case may come forward. Going once, going twice. All right, public hearing is closed. Would you like us to proceed, or would you like us to delay till next month?
So I guess I'd respond first to the issue about the garage. The garage is a required part of the special land use
That's fine.
for the accessory
That's not the
dwelling.
question I had.
Yeah.
The question is whether or not you want us to proceed or delay for a month.
I think we'd like to postpone for a month.
That's fine. Okay.
In hopes
Oh, we'd
that
like
you
to
did-
respond to the
You,
comments?
you get, I would say, if you're asking us to postpone, take those comments to heart, maybe speak to your neighbors and come forward with those stuff next month when there's a full board that can hear those comments.
Okay.
So, hearing that the petitioner would like to postpone this, is there a motion by anyone on the board? Mr. Moore?
Motion to postpone.
Is there a second? All right. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of postponing this till next month signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. You guys will be postponed till next month.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is case number 25-06-16 for 712 South Connecticut Avenue. Whenever you are ready, you may take it away.
Subject site's located on the west side of South Connecticut Avenue, and it's within the one-family residential zoning district. The parcel itself is 50 feet in width, 130 feet in depth, and has a lot area of approximately 6,500 square feet in area. And it is already developed with a single-family dwelling and a detached garage at the rear of the property. The petitioner is proposing a new 240 square foot addition onto the rear of the detached garage, which is labeled as a rec room on their floor plans. And that's going to be separate from the adjacent area, which is simply labeled as garage. A new set of external stairs would provide access to a proposed new second level, which is referred to by the petitioner as a personal design studio. And the floor plans note the presence of an electric water heater, hand sink, toilet, and tub or shower. The zoning ordinance prohibits accessory buildings from having a combination of utilities which allow them to be easily converted into a habitable space. And based upon the drawing, staff is of the opinion that it would be very simple to convert the space into new habitable space, given the proposed utilities. So the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive the prohibition of a combination of utilities to an accessory structure. If the board does grant variance A tonight, the petitioner would be allowed to utilize it for their intended use, which would be for a garage, a personal design studio, and then the rec room. Now, although the petitioner's narrative doesn't express that they would like to have a secondary dwelling on site as their objective, staff, of course, wants to exercise caution in handling it. And of course, this is because it would be, like I said, it would be very simple to convert the second level into its own separate dwelling. Staff did include the definition of a dwelling in your report, but to briefly summarize it, a dwelling would be a building which is used for a residence which contains no less than a kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom living quarters. And then the state building code then further defines a kitchen as an area used for the preparation of food containing no less than the presence of a sink. So based on that definition, staff concluded that with minor modifications to the floor plan and plumbing, plus the presence of the new water and sewer lines which are proposed, it could potentially enable the presence of a kitchen on the second level. So to summarize, the current petitioner or any future owner of the property could not utilize the structure as a separate dwelling unless the board were to grant a use variance to recognize the proposal as a second dwelling unit. So I guess to make things a little bit more simple for the board, staff pointed this out more specifically in the report. So if the board wants to tonight recognize or approve the separate dwelling unit then there's two variances that are necessary to be approved. Obviously, the first one is the use variance to allow an existing garage to be converted into an additional dwelling. And the second would be to waive the 2,500.5 square feet from the minimum required 9,000 square foot lot area, which is required for a two-family dwelling. Alternatively, if the board were to deny those two variances, based upon them not meeting the criteria for approving the variances, that means that it would prohibit a separate dwelling unit in the garage. Now, if the board denies the use variance, it simply means that the petitioner or any property owner thereafter would be unable to utilize the structure for the purpose of a second dwelling unit. It does not necessarily mean that they couldn't use it for their intended studio use, but that would still require the board to grant variance A. Moving on, I guess, past the difficult stuff to more easier things, the zoning ordinance does limit the height of accessory buildings to no more than 15 feet. And of course, that's measured at the midpoint of the highest, the midpoint between the peak and eaves of the highest roof line. In this case, of course, it's the midpoint of the dormer. There, staff measured it to be 19.4 feet, so the petitioner needs a variance for the height to weigh 4.4 feet from the maximum allowable height of 15 feet. Additionally, based upon the height that's proposed, it would require a minimum 5 feet side and rear yard setbacks. The south side yard setback is only 3.5 feet, so the petitioner needs another variance to waive that 1.5 feet from the 5-foot south side yard setback. Staff did also receive one public comment as well as support documents from the petitioner regarding this case, which we did add to the back of your packets. Thank you.
Questions? Any questions? I had one, and I forgot to look it up ahead of time. Is this area zone multifamily allowed, or?
It's one family residential,
Okay.
so it's limited just to the single family dwelling.
Okay. I just want to double check on that one. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Were you going to say something, Nancy?
I just, because I'm glad that you brought that up, because on that part of Connecticut, there are several
Right. That's what I was
homes
asking.
that look like a single-family house, but there's really like maybe 3 apartments in them.
Yeah.
Is that just something that happened a long time ago to those individual lots, or?
It certainly could be possible that there are some non-conforming land uses in that area, but this house was never utilized
Part of
as
that,
such.
yeah, because it's a different block.
Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, the petitioner may come forward and present your case. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Blake Hatterman. I am the architect for the Wymans working on their project. When they first approached me to expand their property with the studio, we did study a great number of different schemes. We studied renovating the basement to include the studio. We studied doing an expansion to the home. The garage was another study that we undertook, and it turned out that that was the best spot on the site to house the use that we're asking for. Replanning the house, we determined infeasible, as it would probably put us back before you for other variances for lot coverage and so on. But expanding the home would also deteriorate the use of the backyard. So we're trying to use the site with the functions that we would like to include to the utmost ability that we're available to do that. The garage is existing, so we are trying to use that also. If we had to move it off of the property line to meet the setback requirements and so on, that would require demoing the existing garage fully and then rebuilding a new structure. We're trying to avoid that for obvious reasons. The current garage is rather new. It's structurally sound and able to support the functions that we want to have. Let me talk briefly about the height. To have the studio on a first floor, we did study a number of schemes that had that. That would have put us in front of you for another variance for the size of that accessory structure. So we determined that the best use of the property was to develop this as a two-story, and to do that realistically and usably, we needed to have a little bit of extra height. Trying to develop this building, given the size within that height restriction, was not feasible to gain us very much usable space. So, I know you're going to have some questions regarding the use of the space, so I'd like Ms. Wyman, who would be the primary user of that space, to discuss with you what that space is going to be used for.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kimberly. So I'm a children's author and illustrator. I'm looking for a space to create such books. I paint. Water is really important. Also, to address your question, Ms. Robinson, yes, that street does have multiple, we call them castle houses. Yeah. But yes, duplexes. One is a 5 apartment.
Oh, wow.
Not at all the intent. Honestly, I just don't want to have to walk in the house in the winter to go to the bathroom if I'm in my studio. It's that simple. I'm in school districts. I do, both of our children are in school, our daughter's at the high school, been in Royal Oak for a long time. Just want to draw, paint, write, and that's about it.
Questions?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I don't have anything further to add. We'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Go ahead.
So you are increasing the height of the structure, so I'm just curious if you've had any outreach to your neighbors or if they've expressed any support.
Actually, thank you. That is included. I've talked with all of the neighbors, and there should be, correct, Alex? I think that you put in there. I spoke with everybody, all the neighbors. We're a big part of the community. They're all in complete support.
Great.
Other questions? Go ahead, Ms. Reddy.
So yeah, again, regarding the height and I think the height and the combination of utilities, we have to conclude that there's something unique about the lot that necessitates this, and that's what I'm struggling with that right now, to see what is unique about the lot that necessitates those variances.
Yes, as I mentioned earlier during the planning stages, the uniqueness of the lot is that expanding the existing structure to accommodate the functions that we need to have to allow her to have her studio would have forced us most likely into a variance in front of the board again. So utilizing the existing garage helped us to eliminate the variances that would be required for the existing dwelling, but also maintains the value of the property and the usable space that currently exists in the backyard that would be detrimentally removed by doing a larger addition. Does that?
Oh.
I mean, that's your answer.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Did you have your hand up, Mr. Moore?
No, that was my thinking.
I do have some additional questions. First off, you spoke a little bit of the practical difficulty in that one, and I'm having a hard time seeing practical difficulty with anything other than variance E of what makes this unique circumstance that couldn't have been done either with a second story or even a third story addition to the house. Yes, addition to the back of the house would have brought you before us, but in our eyes, that would not create this need to have a use variance for possible 2 living structures on it. So therefore, we're always looking for lesser variances requested more. So I'm trying to understand where the practical difficulty, where the other options were not totally feasible at all, and money is not a practical difficulty, unfortunately.
Yes, so you mentioned a third-story addition. The house currently isn't designed to support a third-story addition. It would be a total rebuild of the existing house to accommodate that. So I would suppose that uniquely, we could have approached a larger addition to the rear of the house that would have been most likely 2 stories. But again, the uniqueness that we face on that property is it would have degraded the existing exterior space and therefore degraded the property value, apparently, is how I would see that. So we would have essentially eliminated the backyard to accommodate a very large addition, which was less desirable to the client. We thought that we could house the functions that we needed within the garage space and in the expansion in that location more appropriately than would have been with the house.
Okay. Anyone else?
I mean, can I also just add, having a separate space, I don't know how many creatives we have in the room, but a separate space is imperative for creating. So just the mental clarity, the Zoom calls that I do with students in classrooms all around the country, it just makes a lot of sense.
I don't deny that. The practical difficulty comes in the fact of we haven't, as a board, ever granted a secondary structure living arrangement on the
And what makes
in the
it a
garage
living
area.
arrangement? Just having a toilet in there?
Yes, having the other utilities. Whether or not you actually can go in there and do it, are going to do it, it's always the next person who can take it over. And as staff suggested, per the codes, just because you're calling it a studio doesn't mean the next person alone can't come in and just put a bedroom in there and make some minor modification to make a kitchen. So it's nothing against you personally, we're protecting the future. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we'll ask you after public hearing. There's 6 of us here. You need 6 of us to grant the use variance. So if you want us to go forward after the public hearing, you can tell us to do that, but you might want to think about delaying until next month where there might be more board members and you have a better chance. So if you want to take a moment and sit down, I'll ask if there's any public hearing. Okay, public hearing. If there's anyone who wants to speak on this case, please come forward.
Hello again, Joe Roman. I can relate very well to this project because my lot is almost identical in size. My house footprint is almost identical in size, 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet, with the basement, Michigan basement, so it's squatty. I studied, when I bought this house, all kinds of ways to add on to it practically and created office space as well versus what they propose here with the garage modification to it. And even though you're calling it a second dwelling, I really see it as an extension of the primary dwelling. It's more economical to do something like this than to add on tear the second floor, or tear the roof off and put a whole second story on. It's huge. It's a huge expense. And it's a disruption to the dwelling during the time of construction, which, let's face it, it's going to take a year or more. So it's that stress. So I'm all in favor of these types of projects. It's clearly a studio space. So I suppose you can make it an apartment, but you can do that with any office space, really, but with a toilet room in it. But these spaces are great for people that work from home, need quiet space away from the family. I have a 17-year-old son. I work from home, 1,100 square foot house. He drives me nuts. If I could escape to above my garage, I would be there. just because I can focus and do my work. So the only concern I have on here is the extension of the existing non-conforming garage on the side yard setback. But I can see they have some graphics on there that illustrate it's going to be fire rated. So if it's fire rated, it's providing the protection to the neighbors. I think it's a great solution to the problem that they have, as I've almost identical, same problem with my dwelling. So I support this.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else, public hearing to speak on this, for or against? I don't see anyone else in the thing. Going once, going twice. All right, we'll close. Would you like us to proceed, or would you like us to postpone for a month? You want us to proceed? Okay. We will proceed to this side of the board for discussion and or motions. Anyone want to?
I mean, we've looked, I'll make a
Yes.
comment. We've looked at this before, and I mean, I totally empathize with having some space for creative space. I would love to have that over my garage. But I'm looking at it beyond today. I'm looking at it, 5 years from now or whatever. And I'm thinking of other neighborhoods, because what we're ending up doing is putting 2 dwellings on a single family lot. And it's funny because even where I live right now, years ago, I would say like in the 20s or something, there were times when they were garages that were turned into little apartments, and then through the years they kind of deteriorated and were empty, and they just ended up being not taken care of. So I'm kind of looking at that too. Are we changing the whole, this would be like the first, and starting to change the whole flavor of the neighborhood by allowing to have actually like a house and an apartment kind of thing together. That's my concern.
Comments? Other comments? Anyone want to take a shot at an motion? Mr. Reddy.
I move that we grant variance E, just because I think it's in a separate class from the other variances, and I wouldn't want them to be prohibited from that for a year if the other ones fail.
Is there a second? Anyone? Second to the motion? Seeing none, the motion fails. Is there any other motion? Yes.
If it would be acceptable to the board, I would actually motion to table this until next month, until we do have more members of the board present. I would like to do service to the petitioner, and
I understand that, but the petitioner asked us to move forward, so
okay.
There is a motion. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
All right, discussion. Yes, go ahead.
I feel that the petitioner is doing their very best to work within the parameters given. To be perfectly honest, I can see both sides of this issue. As a creative, I am a musician. I understand the need for separate space, but I am also looking towards the future and thinking about later homeowners, later neighbors, and frankly, I know that there are other members of this board that might have some input that might sway a decision one way or the other, hence my motion to table.
Okay, Mr. Moore?
I couldn't have said it better. So I think having the rest of our board, or at least more people here, is definitely in their benefit.
All right. Any other comments?
Let's go ahead and table it. I have all of the support from everybody on the street, all of our neighbors. We're longstanding citizens. Our children go here. Our daughter's an all-state athlete.
Okay.
So if I'll go ahead, Mr. Jim,
That's all.
and take your
Thank-
recommendation.
It's not that.
That was, originally it was going to be, you were telling us to go forward, but now that you're saying you'd like us to postpone.
Okay, so I should withdraw my motion.
No, your motion was already withdrawn.
Oh, okay.
Because no one supported it, there was
Oh,
no
okay.
actual
I thought there
motion.
was support. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Who, me?
Yeah.
No,
that's what I
no,
thought.
he supported Mr. Bashan's motion, not Mr. Reddy's motion. No one supported
Unless I
Mr.
accidentally did. I didn't mean to.
Okay, any other comments on this? All right,
The motion was the table, correct?
Yes.
But I think we need a motion to postpone.
That was,
To tables for within the same meeting.
oh, I
So-
thought you said postpone.
okay.
Did you say table or postpone?
I said table, so I will rescind the motion to table, and I will make a motion to postpone.
You don't have to rescind it, you can just say you're going to amend your motion.
I amend it to postpone.
I'm
Mr.
fine
Ward?
with the amendment.
Okay, motion is to postpone till next month. Is there any other comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Your motion is postponed till next month.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to other business, do we have any other business? Seeing no other business, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Going once, going twice. All right, public comment's closed. Is there a motion for adjournment? Mr. Reddy? Is there a second? Mr. Moore? Sorry. That's not his authority. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We are done. Thank you. Best luck. I will not be here next month. Have fun.